I knew something was off the moment I saw them laugh together over the fence. It was too easy. Too natural. Like they had their own private language. 5 years. 5 fucking years. And I never saw it coming. She was mine. Or so I thought. We moved into that suburban neighborhood with big hopes. Fresh paint on the walls, new furniture, and a mortgage that felt like a promise. A future. A family. Her name was Emily. Blonde, soft-spoken, the kind of woman that made you feel safe just by sitting next to her. She had this calmness about her, like no storm could ever reach her. I loved that. I needed that. Next door lived Mark. Divorced, mid-40s, always shirtless in the summer. He had the smug, lazy charm. The type that didn't need to try, women just gravitated to him. I never worried though. Emily wasn't like that. Or so I thought. It started small. Quick chats over the fence. Laughs in the driveway. He's just being friendly, she said. Mark's harmless. I believed her. God, I wanted to believe her. But then it turned into late-night wine on the porch when I was working late. Helping him with house stuff when I was out of town. Birthday parties where they'd stand just a little too close. Still, I made excuses. I blamed myself. Maybe I was distant. Maybe I wasn't giving her enough. Maybe she just needed a friend. But then I found the text. It was a rainy Thursday. She left her phone on the kitchen counter while she showered. It buzzed, a message from M. That's what he was saved under. Just an initial. Last night was dangerous. You're too addictive. My heart dropped. Everything blurred. The walls, the rain outside, even the sound of the shower running upstairs, all of it faded into white noise. I didn't confront her. Not then. I needed to be sure. I needed proof. Because deep down, some pathetic part of me still hoped there was a reasonable explanation. So I waited. And what I found nearly destroyed me. I started watching them. Not in a crazy, obsessive way, at least that's what I told myself. But I couldn't ignore the shift in my gut. I began taking days off without telling her. Canceled a few business trips. Just stayed home. Quiet. Invisible. I needed to see it with my own eyes, no matter how much it hurt. And what I saw changed everything. They had a rhythm. A routine. He'd wave at her every morning when she took out the trash, and she'd smile in that way, the smile I used to think was just for me. In the evenings when I claimed to be working late, she'd sometimes slip out back, cross the lawn, and disappear behind his sliding glass door. Never for long. Just long enough. One night I followed her. She thought I was on a flight to Chicago. Instead, I parked a few blocks away and walked home in the dark. I stood behind our garage, hidden in the shadows, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might give me away. Her silhouette was visible through Mark's living room window. She was laughing, head tilted back, wine glass in hand, her knees pressed against his on the couch. He leaned in and kissed her. And she let him. No hesitation. No guilt. I staggered back like I'd been punched. There it was. The truth. Not just a kiss. It was how she kissed him, with familiarity. Comfort. Passion that had clearly burned long before that night. I didn't go inside. I couldn't. I drove to a cheap motel off the highway and stared at the ceiling until dawn, trying to convince myself I hadn't just watched 5 years of my life disintegrate through a window. But denial is a powerful drug. The next morning, she came home as if nothing had happened. Made coffee. Kissed me on the cheek. Asked how my flight went. I smiled. Said it was fine. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed more. Because a part of me still wanted to believe this was just a one-time thing. A mistake. Something salvageable. Something forgivable. But I was wrong. I became a ghost in my own home. Walking, breathing, pretending. Smiling through clenched teeth. Every kiss felt like poison. Every laugh from her mouth sounded like a lie. But I played my role perfectly. I brought her flowers. I cooked dinner. I asked about her day. I even made love to her, knowing she had given her body to him the night before. I hated myself for it. But I needed her to believe nothing had changed because I was hunting the truth. Not just suspicions. Not just shadows. I wanted the full picture. So I started digging. I bought a burner phone and installed a hidden camera in our living room just in case she ever invited him in when I was away. I placed a GPS tracker under her car. I hacked into our shared laptop and found her iCloud credentials. Within days, I had access to everything. Her texts, her call logs, her photos. What I found wasn't just betrayal. It was a full-blown second life. They had been together for 5 years. 5 years. It started 6 months after we moved in. When I was buried in long hours and new job stress, she found comfort in his compliments. He listened. He flirted. He made her feel wanted again. And she let him in. Slowly at first, casual texts, long conversations, small favors. Then kisses. Touches. Nights. Secrets. They shared hotels when he traveled. They had nicknames. E and M. She told him things she never told me, fears, dreams, confessions in the dark. But the worst part wasn't the sex. It was the intimacy. She sent him photos of her bed, the meals I cooked, the outfits she wore for me. All with captions like, "Wish it was you here," or "Thinking of last night." She wasn't just cheating. She was building memories with him, using our life as their playground. I found a video once. I watched it even though it shattered something inside me. They were in his kitchen. She was wearing my hoodie. Laughing. Sitting on the counter while he kissed her neck and whispered something in her ear. She smiled in a way I hadn't seen in years. Pure. Unfiltered. Real. That's when I knew. She didn't just betray me. She loved him. The irony of it all? I don't think she ever planned to leave me. That's what made it so much worse. She didn't cheat because our marriage was falling apart. She cheated in parallel. Like living two lives at once, one for appearances, one for passion. And she was so damn good at it. Perfect wife on paper. Sweet smiles at dinner parties. Holding my hand in public like I was her whole world while sneaking away for stolen moments with him in the shadows. I kept wondering, how does someone split their heart like that? How do you kiss your husband and your lover in the same day and not collapse from the weight of it? I started seeing every memory differently. Every trip we took, every laugh we shared, they all felt corrupted. Had she texted him while I slept next to her in that cabin in the woods? Was she picturing his face when she moaned my name? My mind became a battlefield of rewound moments, dissected details, and imagined betrayals. It ate away at me. I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, her breathing slow and peaceful beside me while I felt like I was drowning. And Mark? That smug bastard didn't even try to hide. Once I started watching him closely, I noticed it all. The way he looked at her when we were together. The casual touches. The inside jokes. The glances that lasted a little too long. He wasn't just sleeping with my wife. He enjoyed knowing he had something that was supposed to be mine. It wasn't just about lust, it was about dominance. He could have found any woman. But he wanted her. Because she was mine. One evening I came home early, unannounced. She was in the kitchen, humming, cooking pasta like it was any other Tuesday. She turned, smiled, kissed me like always. But something in me snapped. I couldn't pretend anymore. I stared at her, really stared, and all I saw was a stranger. A woman I no longer recognized. I wanted to scream. To grab her phone and throw it across the room. To drag the truth out of her mouth. But I didn't. Instead, I kissed her forehead and told her I loved her. Because I wasn't done yet. I wanted her to think she'd won. But I had a plan. And I was going to burn it all down. I started gathering everything. Every text. Every call log. Every location ping from the GPS. I printed it all, cataloged it, even dated and highlighted the most damning pieces. I created a digital archive and a physical folder labeled in bold black ink, Truth. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it yet, but I needed to hold it, this evidence, this confirmation that I wasn't insane, that the life I thought I had truly was a lie. It gave me control. It gave me purpose. Because while they were indulging in their fantasy, I was constructing their reality check. But the longer I waited, the more it poisoned me. I couldn't touch her without flinching. I couldn't look her in the eye without imagining his hands on her. Every time she laughed, it echoed like mockery. Every time she kissed me, I tasted betrayal. Yet I still played the role. I brought her coffee in bed. I helped her with her garden. I made love to her, not out of desire, but out of morbid curiosity, wondering if she imagined him instead. Then something shifted. She started pulling away. Subtle, at first. Less eye contact. Shorter kisses. Her phone always face down. I asked if everything was okay. She smiled, said she was just tired. Work stress. Hormones. The usual excuses. But I knew. He wanted more. And she was thinking about it. I saw it in her eyes, that distant stare, like she was already picturing life without me. I was losing her, and not to passion or accident, but to a calculated choice. So I made one of my own. I reached out to a divorce attorney. Quietly. An older woman with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. I laid it all out for her, the affair, the evidence, the timeline. She listened silently, then looked me dead in the eyes and said, "If you want to make this count, you wait. Let her make the first move. Let her show her hand. When she thinks she's in control, that's when you strike." So I waited. And sure enough, a week later, she asked if we could talk. We sat on the couch, the same one where we watched 100 movies, shared popcorn, made love. Her hands trembled. Her voice was soft. "I think we've grown apart," she said. I think we need some space. I nodded slowly. Calm. Collected. Inside I was screaming. But my face never cracked. Of course, I said. Whatever you need. She thought I was defeated. But she had no idea what was coming. After that conversation, everything moved quickly. Too quickly. Within days, she started staying late at work more often. Her phone, once casually left around the house, now never left her side. She was careful, meticulous, as if suddenly aware she was being watched, though she didn't know how closely. One night, I saw her delete an entire thread of messages before she even took off her shoes. She smiled as she did it, not realizing I had already read those messages hours before. She told Mark she was almost free. That she was preparing the exit. That he should be patient just a little longer. They even joked about how clueless I was. Clueless. That word rang in my ears like a gunshot. But the most devastating blow came when I found the photos. Not just of them in bed or at hotels, I'd already seen more than enough of that. No, these were worse. Pictures of them at the beach, on hikes, at coffee shops. Smiling. Holding hands. Looking like a couple. Normal. Domestic. Happy. And they weren't recent. Some dated back 3-4 years. That's when it hit me, he wasn't just her affair. He was her other life. While I thought we were building a future, she was already living one without me, just next door, just out of reach. I remember one night, I sat alone in the garage, staring at our wedding album. My hands trembled as I flipped through the pages. Her eyes, once so full of love, now looked like a lie. I thought about the vows she made. In sickness and in health. In good times and bad. Forsaking all others. She said those words in front of God, our families, our friends. She said them to me. And then she broke every single one. That was the night I made my decision. No more waiting. No more gathering. I had enough. The next morning I called my lawyer. I'm ready, I told her. Good, she said. Let's make it hurt. So I filed. Quietly. Strategically. We froze the joint accounts. Served the papers at her office, not the house. I didn't want her drama polluting my space. When she came home that night, white as a ghost, clutching the envelope like it was on fire, I was already sipping whiskey on the porch. She stared at me, mouth open, eyes wide. I can explain. I cut her off. No, I said. You've done enough explaining. To him. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stood there. Silent. Because she knew the game was over. And she'd lost. What followed was the most surreal period of my life. Living under the same roof with the woman who'd betrayed me for 5 years, pretending like the air between us wasn't soaked in poison. She slept in the guest room, packed in silence, moved with this robotic numbness, not guilt, not sorrow, just detachment. Like she'd already mourned the death of our marriage long ago and was just going through the final rites. And maybe she had. Maybe while I was still holding on, trying to love her, trying to build something real, she had already let go and handed her heart to another man. Mark, of course, didn't hide. The very next day, I saw him on his porch, smirking as if he'd finally won some long, twisted game. My fists clenched every time I saw him. But I didn't give him the satisfaction of my rage. I stayed calm. Controlled. Because that's what she expected me to lose. My dignity. My temper. My sense of self. But I refused to give her that. I refused to be the broken one in this story. Instead, I became methodical. I pulled every financial record. Every transaction. Every purchase she made under my name. I found evidence that she'd used our joint credit cards to fund weekend getaways with him. Restaurants. Gas stations in towns we'd never visited together. Gifts, expensive ones that I never received. My lawyer called it marital misconduct. I called it theft. So we filed for reimbursement. Every penny. Every stolen dollar. That's when she cracked. She begged to talk. One last conversation. Closure, she called it. I agreed. We sat at the kitchen table, the one where we'd shared years of dinners, holidays, birthdays. She looked tired. Pale. Hollow. Her hands shook as she reached for her coffee. I never meant to hurt you, she said. I laughed. Not loudly. Just enough for her to hear the disbelief in it. You meant to cheat on me for 5 years, Emily. That wasn't an accident. She looked down. Swallowed hard. I didn't know how to stop, she whispered. You didn't want to stop, I corrected. And that was the truth. She had every chance to end it. Every opportunity to confess. To choose me. But she didn't. And now she wanted absolution, a neat little ending where we could both cry and pretend it was all just a mistake. But I wasn't giving her that either. You lost the right to my forgiveness the day you kissed him in our house, I said. And with that, I stood up, left the room, and let her sit there, alone, drowning in the silence she had earned. The divorce finalized 3 months later. Clean split on paper. But nothing about it felt clean. I signed the documents with a hand that barely felt like mine, numb from the emotional frostbite of everything she'd done. She didn't contest anything, not the asset division, not the financial reimbursements, not even the alimony waiver. It was almost like she wanted to disappear, to erase herself from my life as quickly and painlessly as possible. But pain wasn't something you could just sign away. It lingered. In the empty house. In the scent of her still clinging to the pillows. In the ghosts of memories that refused to fade. She moved in with Mark. That was the final insult. Not even a pretense of guilt or grace. Just straight into his arms, no mourning, no shame. As if 5 years of lies could be folded neatly into a new beginning. As if their love, born of betrayal, was suddenly legitimate now that I was out of the picture. But deep down I knew what starts in deception rarely ends in peace. She might have thought she'd won, but she didn't understand what she'd lost. Because I loved her. Truly. Deeply. Stupidly. I would have walked through fire for that woman. Built her a kingdom with my bare hands. And she traded all of that, not for someone better, not even for someone different, but for someone convenient. Someone nearby. Someone who flattered her in the quiet moments when I was too tired or too distracted by life's responsibilities. It wasn't epic passion. It wasn't fate. It was proximity. And now she was stuck with him. No longer the secret. No longer the fantasy. Just the man who was once exciting because he wasn't me. And I wondered late at night if she missed the way I held her. The way I listened. The way I saw her, truly saw her, before she became a stranger. I wondered if Mark ever looked at her and realized he didn't win anything. He just inherited the ruin of something once beautiful. I started rebuilding. Slowly. Painfully. Therapy. New routines. I repainted the bedroom. Got rid of the mattress. Burned the sheets. I cut my hair. Got a tattoo, something symbolic, something permanent, to remind myself that pain leaves marks, but so does survival. I reconnected with friends I had let drift during those hollow years. I started laughing again. Small, broken laughs at first. But eventually real ones. Because the truth is, betrayal doesn't just destroy your heart. It destroys your identity. Who you were. What you believed. But piece by piece I was becoming someone new. Someone stronger. One evening, nearly a year after she left, I saw her again. Not intentionally, it was one of those accidental collisions life throws at you just to test if the wound still bleeds. I was standing in line at the grocery store, clutching a basket of pointless items, frozen pizza, a 6-pack, toothpaste, when I heard her voice. Soft. Familiar. Almost haunting. I turned and there she was, just 2 people behind me, holding a bottle of wine and a half-hearted smile. She froze. I didn't. I nodded once. Polite. Indifferent. But inside, my chest tightened like a fist. She stepped forward awkwardly, like someone who wasn't sure if they were allowed to speak. You look good, she said. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. After everything, that was what she had to offer. Thanks, I replied, flat, emotionless. I turned back around. A beat of silence. I didn't think I'd see you again. I didn't respond. She shifted on her feet, her voice softer now. I've thought about reaching out, but I figured you wouldn't want to hear from me. You figured right. Another beat. Then she said something that caught me off guard. I made a mistake. For a moment, I felt the old ache rise, the part of me that once would have begged to hear those words, that would have forgiven, embraced, crumbled. But not anymore. No, I said, still not looking at her. You made 5 years of mistakes. That's not an accident. That's a pattern. She went quiet. And then, mercifully, the cashier called me forward. I paid, grabbed my bag, and walked out without looking back. No anger. No pain. Just distance. It was over. Truly over. Driving home that night, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just felt free. The kind of freedom that only comes after you've survived hell and realized it can't touch you anymore. The kind of peace that isn't loud or dramatic. It just is. Quiet. Steady. Earned. I went home. Lit a candle. Turned on music I used to love before I forgot what joy sounded like. And for the first time in years, I sat alone. Not in sorrow, not in regret, but in clarity. I wasn't healing because she was gone. I was healing because I finally remembered who I was before she broke me. The strange. How betrayal, when it first hits, feels like the end of everything. Like your world has collapsed into dust, and all the air has been sucked from your lungs. But what no one tells you is that betrayal is also a kind of rebirth. It destroys the illusion. It burns away the lies. And in that scorched aftermath, if you're strong enough, you get to choose who you become next. That's what I did. I didn't just survive her infidelity. I dismantled the version of me that tolerated crumbs and called it love. I look back now, not with rage or even bitterness, but with clarity. I was a man who gave everything to someone who was never truly mine. I mistook her silence for peace, her distance for independence, her secrecy for privacy. I loved blindly, and she used that blindness to build a separate world behind my back. But I see everything now. Every lie, every late night, every stolen moment she thought I'd never notice. And I carry those lessons with me, not as scars but as armor. She stayed with Mark as far as I know. Maybe they're happy, maybe they're not, but I stopped caring. Because whatever they have, it was born in shadows. It was fed by dishonesty and grown in the soil of my broken trust. No matter how long it lasts, it will never be clean. And that's their burden now, not mine. As for me, I'm doing better than I ever imagined. I started a new job in a new city, smaller place, but filled with light. I adopted a dog. I wake up without anxiety gnawing at my chest. I sleep soundly, no longer haunted by her voice or his name. I've even started dating again. Cautiously, slowly, but with a different lens. I know now what I deserve. I know now that love without loyalty is just performance. And I'll never settle for performance again. If you've been where I've been, if someone you love chose deceit over honesty, if they made you question your worth, your sanity, your whole reality, I want you to hear this. You are not broken. You were never the problem. Sometimes love ends. Sometimes it ends brutally. But the end of love isn't the end of you. It's the beginning of something harder, something quieter, something more sacred. It's the beginning of freedom. And freedom, unlike love, never lies.